Hey guys, how's it going? Danconia, and welcome back to the Overwatch League Roundup 2020 Week 20 preview. So it is going to be a bumper week in the Overwatch League, and no, that is not a pun because bumper is not back. So if you're wondering why there's no meta preview this week, this is because the hero pool rules have changed, and the hero pool will be the same as last week. So we will take the iteration and say, well, the meta preview is going to be the same as last week's meta preview. We're probably going to see, some teams try and win the Genji. Paris, hello. They are playing the San Francisco Shock this week, so that should be pretty interesting. But we have got a bumper week this week. There are 13 fixtures. 13. I don't think we have seen any weeks that have had that many fixtures. We've seen 12 match weeks, but we haven't seen 13, I don't think. So this is a massive, massive week of fixtures. So let's see what we are going to be taking on here. As ever, you've got your standings on the screen. You've got the video printer who's going to show you the worded fixtures. But we are going to start on Saturday, June the 20th at 9 AM. We will see the Seoul Dynasty taking on the Guangzhou Charge. Remember, that is British Summer Time. And this should be an interesting one because we haven't seen the Guangzhou Charge yet. We didn't get to see Guangzhou Charge last week. We got to see Seoul last week against the New York Excelsior. And, well, it didn't go very well, did it? What do we want to see from Seoul Dynasty this week? Well, we want to see more double barrier. It's what they're good at, and it's what they get wins on. So please, Seoul, don't mess around. You need wins on the board. Guangzhou Charger are not a team you can go messing around with. They are currently 6th in the league, and so Guangzhou Charge were the number 1 seed as well in the May Melee. It'd be interesting to see if the Guangzhou Charge can maintain that form going into June and the summer, whatever they're calling this tournament this time. But yeah, Guangzhou Charge are a good team, and I hope Seoul Dynasty don't mess around like they did last week with this Zarya Winston rubbish. I just want them to see double barrier. I want them to play double barrier, and just play the Seoul Dynasty that gets the Seoul Dynasty wins. Don't muck around. Don't go sandbagging. Don't go silly stuff, because Guangzhou Charge will definitely punish you. So this is an interesting one. I'm hoping it's going to be a close match, but I really don't know where to go with it. Because, if Seoul had put up a good fight against NYXL last week, I would have said Guangzhou Charge easily. Seoul Dynasty easily. But I don't know. It depends on whether Guangzhou Charge can maintain their form from May. So I think it's going to be a close one, and I'm going to go for a 3-2 victory for the Guangzhou Charge. At 11 AM, we will see the London Spitfire taking on the Chengdu Hunters. Now, this is actually a pretty big game for London in some respects, because London got absolutely pummeled by the Shanghai Dragons last week. Again, it was the classic London of, well, they don't quite know what to do yet. But we did get to see a different London on the last map, which was Anubis, where we got to see people like Fuse, who we hadn't seen before. But this is a match that is definitely winnable for the Spitfire. They have played the Chengdu Hunters once this season. That was in the May qualifying matches, and they beat them comprehensively 3-0. It wasn't close. So I want to see London do that again. They have to be able to stamp their authority over the likes of the Chengdu Hunters, because it's tough against the bigger teams for London right now. London now haven't got I don't want to say haven't got the quality, but they haven't got the coordination, they haven't got the skill to outdo these teams right now. There's a lot of building work going on at the Spitfire. So they need to pick up wins where they can get them, and this is a win if you're going to get one. I don't see a more beatable opponent in Asia than Chengdu Hunters right now. So London really needs to capitalize on this, and plus they have 2 matches this week, London, and their next one is not easy. Really not easy. So I hope London don't go into this week and kind of take the Chengdu Hunters for granted and concentrate too much on their other match, because if they do, they might end up losing both, which could mean a winless month for London. I'm not going to lie. But moving on, 1 PM, Hangzhou Spark taking on the New York Excelsior. So New York were very, very good last week. They completely swept aside the Seoul Dynasty for all of Seoul Dynasty's faults, but New York showed us a different side to them. They showed this chaotic, Haxel-looking, aggressive side to them. It was very, very nice. The Hangzhou Spark are yet to be seen in June, and Hangzhou Spark have been making some changes. Architect will now be available for them. Also, they have now Pajon as a coach, who was with the Vancouver Titans. So they have some pedigree coming in to this part of the season. And I think Hangzhou Spark are going to be a team that improves. So I reckon they will give the New York Excelsior a good go here. I still think New York have got too much quality for this Hangzhou Spark side. But I expect Hangzhou Spark to start improving over the coming weeks, which is not a great thing for London, because I believe that they have to play Hangzhou next week. But The hero pools don't exist next week, so that's going to be interesting. But yeah, I think New York should do fairly well here. I think it might be a 3-1-3-2 for New York. I don't think it's going to be a whitewash. I don't think it's going to be Hangzhou getting absolutely stomped. Let's put it that way. But we have a little bit of a gap, and then at 8 p.m. BST, we have the San Francisco Shock taking on the Paris Eternal. Oh, this is going to be interesting. So, Paris Eternal are a team that I've wanted to see get really, really, really tested. And this is them getting really, really, really tested. This is the San Francisco Shock. There aren't many teams better than the San Francisco Shock, if any, in NA right now. So, I want to see Paris Eternal step up and give the Shock a game. I don't think they can beat the Shock right now. I think they're lacking too much. But Sparkle looked good last week, but the Boston Uprising really took them close. So I want Paris to... It's Paris' only game this week as well. San Francisco Shock have to prepare for the Washington Justice later on. So Paris can come into this fully prepared for this Shock side. I want to see them make a game of it. I'll be disappointed if this was a 3-0. I still think it would be something like a 3-1 for the Shock, though, because I think the Shock are just too good. But, moving on, at 10 p.m, we'll see the Atlanta Reign taking on the Toronto Defiant. Now, I'm not settled on the Atlanta Reign. I don't know. They're a bit of an enigma for me right now. And Toronto Defiant did look good against the Vancouver Titans. Now, that is the Vancouver Titans. So this is a difficult one for me to call in some respects. I think Toronto will give this a good go, but I've got to give it to the Reign. But when you look at the standings, they're actually 12th and 13th. They're slap bang next to each other pretty much. So this could be a supremely close game. And with Toronto Defiant having a better tank line now, if they continue with Numlocked and Shawfall being back, I wouldn't be surprised if Toronto actually won this. So I think this will be a close game, but 3-2 for the Atlanta Reign is what I'd go for. At midnight, they were going into the Sunday here. The Los Angeles Gladiators will take on the Houston Outlaws. So, Houston, Houston, again, a bit of an enigma. I mean, we've still got hydration on the main tank, and that can be good and bad. Muma is still, I don't know, somewhere off with Bumper, and Los Angeles Gladiators are coming off the back of a good win against the Atlanta Reign last week. So I think the Gladiators should be able to get a win here. Again, I don't think it'll be that much different to the scoreline that we saw against the Atlanta Reign. I think it'll be a 3-1 for the Gladiators or something like that. I don't think the Outlaws are going to get absolutely pummeled here. But the Gladiators should have enough quality to get past them. Plus, the Gladiators have just signed Kevster. Kevster is really good. So I'm hoping we get to see Kevster alongside Birdring. And if we do, that's actually a really good DPS line. Kevster has been really good in contenders. He's come from Team Doge, which used to be Team Envy, and he is good. So I'm very interested to see Kevster play for the Gladiators. But moving on, and at 2 a.m. on the Sunday, we will see the Dallas Fuel taking on the Vancouver Titans. So Dallas Fuel, it was a rough week last week, getting manhandled by the Florida Mayhem. Decay didn't look his usual self. He didn't look like he was able to pop off as much. But at the Vancouver Titans, that should be a different story. I think the Dallas Fuel have a lot of quality to overcome the Vancouver Titans. The Vancouver Titans are suffering from a bad loss of Echo. Shockwave can't play his Echo, which he looked good on in the May Melee. And last week, the Vancouver Titans looked outmatched, really, by the Toronto Defiant. Yes, they made it close at times, but the quality was too much for the for Vancouver, and their tank line got manhandled. And I think Gamsu and Note is a better tank line than what Vancouver have right now. So Shredlock and KSA. So yeah, I think Dallas Fuel should get a hefty win here. 3-1 maybe, 3-0. I would like to see Dallas Fuel get a 3-0 in this situation, because I don't think Dallas Fuel should be 16th. I really don't. I think they're better than that. But I think it's the way the fixtures have fallen for Dallas Fuel right now. So I'd expect them to get a fairly good victory over the Vancouver Titans. But the matches move into the late morning in BST. With 9 a.m, we see the Guangzhou Charge taking on the Hangzhou Spark. The Battle of the Electric, I like to call this. So, Guangzhou versus Hangzhou. This is interesting, because I think it will heavily depend on what Guangzhou Charge turn up. Because if we see the Guangzhou charge that we saw in May, I think this is a win for Guangzhou fairly easily. I think it'll be a 3-1 or something. But Hangzhou have improved. They've made good additions, as I said just now. But the thing is, both teams have to prepare for tougher opponents, arguably, in the first round of fixtures of the weekend. So there's going to be a lot of divided attention. So that could have an impact on this match. But Hangzhou will give a good go at this. So I still have to go off what we've seen from the Guangzhou charge recently. And so I have to say Guangzhou charge for the win. But 3-1, 3-2, I don't think it's going to be a massive skill gap. I think it's going to be close. But I would expect Guangzhou charge to get the win on current form anyway. At 11 AM, we will see the Chengdu Hunters taking on the Shanghai Dragons. Chengdu, it doesn't get any easier, does it? Now, Chengdu, same as I said for London, right? Because we'll be talking about London again in a minute. You've got a winnable game, and you've got a bloody difficult game. I said this about London in May, one of the weeks. I can't remember which week it was. Concentrate on winning the winnable game. It is a win in the bag. And look at these two teams need wins. They need wins, right? This match for Chengdu, are they realistically going to get a win over the Shanghai Dragons? I don't think anyone expects it, do they? So don't pour an absolute megaton of resources into trying to beat the Shanghai Dragons when you go and drop the match against London Spitfire, because you've gained nothing. You've gained absolutely nothing. If you can beat London and Shanghai somehow, then what a mega week it's been for you. But they need to make sure they get the win over London, because getting the win over Shanghai and losing to London negates the win over Shanghai, if you see what I mean. So I've got to go for a 3-0 win for Shanghai here. The way they dominated London last week, I don't see that changing against Chengdu Hunters. Plus, it's Shanghai's only match this week as well. So they should come into it very, very well prepared, and they should be able to sweep aside the Chengdu Hunters. Shanghai Dragons are one of the best teams, if not the best team in this league right now. And so there's not many teams who could compete with the fire-breathing Dragons, shall we say, right now. But moving on to 1 PM, and we will see the New York Excelsior taking on the London Spitfire. I told you the London Spitfire's second match of this weekend was not going to be easy, and New York Excelsior looked fantastic against Seoul Dynasty last week. So New York, obviously, they've got this more chaotic style and stuff like that. What I worry about London here is the fact that I think they might try and focus a heck of a lot on this Excelsior match and try and get a decent performance out of it, and then take the Chengdu Hunters for granted, and that becomes very close, if not a loss for London. If they lose both this week, it will be catastrophic for the Spitfire. Like, they probably won't get a win this month if they lose against the Chengdu Hunters. So I don't see London getting anything from this Excelsior match either way. I think the Excelsior match, Excelsior are just too good for the London Spitfire. The London Spitfire don't always know when to engage. It's just weird. It's just weird, considering this team has been together for months and months and months, well, half a year. And they still have these issues, and there seems to be a lack of leadership sometimes in the team. There's no one to, well, grab them by certain parts and say, get in. There's no leadership. There's no shot caller. A shot caller's not the right kind of thing, but the person to say, just go in now. We go in now. We go in now, right? There doesn't seem to be that player right now, and London seem a little bit lost at times. So, yeah, I think New York should get a 3-0 here. They should get a fairly hefty victory over the London Spitfire. At 8 PM, a little bit of a gap, we see the Boston Uprising taking on Philadelphia Fusion. So, Boston have looked good lately. They took the Paris Eternal close last week. They took the Paris Eternal close again in the May Melee, almost knocking them out of it. And they got a win against the Los Angeles Gladiators in the last week of the May regular season. So, this is a different beast, though. This is the Philadelphia Fusion. The Philadelphia Fusion are better than the Paris Eternal. They are better than the Los Angeles Gladiators. So, this is a test of the Boston Uprising. I don't expect them to get a win here. But with this Boston Uprising team, it is definitely baby steps. So, if this Boston Uprising team can look good against the Philadelphia Fusion, if they can give them a match, if they can make it even close, maybe, then it's a good performance from the Boston Uprising. If it's a 3-1 but it's a close match, if it's a 3-2 but it's a close match, they still lose, it's still a good look for Boston. So that's what I'd like to see from Boston Uprising. Philadelphia Fusion, just get the win. Just win. Forehead. You cannot lose to a team that's 20th, no matter whether they're improving or not when you're second in the league. So I'd expect Philadelphia Fusion to get a win here. I would go for 3-1. I think Boston will take a map. I wouldn't be surprised. Boston have looked much better in recent weeks. But at 10 p.m, we will see the Los Angeles Valiant going up against the Florida Mayhem. So Florida, we were wondering if they could maintain their form from May. They looked incredibly good back then. And last week they took on the Dallas Fuel and manhandled them. And BQB was fantastic, Yaki was fantastic, Gargoyle was fantastic, Fate was fantastic, need I go on. But Florida Mayhem taking on the Valiant. Are Valiant better than the Fuel right now? Well, the standings say so. Valiant are currently 8th. So this is arguably a tougher test for the Mayhem, and one of the tougher tests they've had, apart from like the Shock and Fusion in the May Melee. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I think the Valiant will give a good go, but I still think the Florida Mayhem are going to have too much here. I still think this is going to be perhaps a 3-1 win for the Florida Mayhem. Maybe a 3-2 if Valiant really buck their ideas. But I still think the Florida Mayhem are going to have too much. And I have to say, Florida Mayhem are a top 6 team, definitely. Maybe a top 4 team, maybe a top 3 team. I mean, we have to say that Florida Mayhem got a win over the Fusion, and a fairly good win over the Fusion in the May Melee. So currently that Fusion team is 2nd place in this league. That's the question, and we can't count the Asian teams because, well, Shanghai and New York are playing in Asia, so that means that Florida, San Francisco Shock, and Philadelphia Fusion are top of NA right now. And yeah, that's because Fusion have done well in early season. So yeah, there's a lot of debatable things right now, but I think the Florida Mayhem should get a good win here. And then lastly, at midnight on, well, Monday at this point, it'll be the Washington Justice taking on the San Francisco Shock. San Francisco Shock will probably have the tougher test to prepare for against the Paris Eternal. Washington Justice, it's a team with good parts with no direction. That's the best way to say it right now. They have just promoted Supreme to their head coach role, I believe. So I think they need more coaches. I think they need a direction. I think they need to know what to do. They have looked lost, but they've got the parts there. I mean, they've got Stitch and Janu. Like, they're good players. I think we know that. They've got good players at Washington Justice. They've got players that are not 18th place, put it that way. And so I think this is going to be a rough week for the Washington Justice. Going up against the San Francisco Shock, it should be a 3-0 for this Shock team. But I think the Justice, it's a work in progress. You're going to have to be patient, Washington fans. I think that's just the way to go right now. But those are our 13 fixtures for this week. It's just bonkers, isn't it? If I was to pick out fixtures to watch out for, then I would probably be looking at Guangzhou Seoul, just to see, because Seoul weren't massively great last week and we haven't seen Guangzhou so far. Also, I'd be looking at the Charge versus Spark match, which I think could be quite interesting as well. And maybe the Valiant Mayhem, because I'm actually interested to see if the Valiant can step up and go toe-to-toe with the Mayhem. It's going to be an interesting test for the Valiant. Remember, the Valiant have beaten the Shock so far this season, one of the only teams that have been able to. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that works out. And yeah, there's some interesting tastes and testers for the rest of the month in this week. We got the first look at the Hangzhou Spark for this month, slightly new look Hangzhou Spark. The first look at Guangzhou Charge, see if they can maintain their form, and London Spitfire, if they can bounce back and things like that. So yeah, it's going to be super interesting, and I'm very interested to see if Boston can give the Philadelphia Fusion a game. But I am going to leave it here for this one. So thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you liked it, give a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. See you then.